All right. Thanks, Ron. And thanks to everyone for joining us today. I think it makes a lot of sense for this presentation to follow after John's. Love the things that CrowdBrink is doing in terms of optimizing quality of experience and some pretty special stuff related to optimizing end-to-end network connectivity. That really dovetails nicely with what I want to talk about, which is network observability and understanding the end user experience. Just to start things off here, I always enjoy a good conversation with a chatbot. I don't get out much, I guess. But I asked a couple chatbots to describe for me the challenges that IT teams have in financial services organizations. And this was one of the responses I got that IT departments face a multitude of challenges. And I thought, multitude might be a little understated, especially if you look at the definition, the state of being many. Even if I go with a great number, I think this is still the understatement of the year. If you look at the different types and the diversity of challenges that these IT teams face, it is daunting. I asked those same chatbots to give me some examples of what those challenges were. And this is just a subset of what I got back. But I think it's a pretty telling list. And if you look at, this is everything from fraud detection and prevention to, change management and resistance to change, integrating with legacy systems, data security and privacy. The list goes on and on. This is a ponderous list. But how does it compare with what an actual intelligence would say, what a person might say? So I asked one of our Viavi sales engineers to send me some notes from a call with a financial services organization that ultimately became a customer, and asked, what are your business goals, and what is it that IT is trying to do in support of those business goals? And so here we see a list. It has some commonalities with what the chatbot came back with, but it gets a little more real here. We're dealing with a heavy reliance on packet capture-based application performance, and it's not the most efficient way to resolve problems. We're focused on reducing dwell time. When a breach happens, not if, but when a breach happens, how do we document the effects and keep the dwell time to an absolute minimum? They've got their sleeves rolled up and their tools out trying to troubleshoot, DNS and LDAP problems. So this is, the reality of what IT teams are facing, kind of in addition to what we saw on the previous slide. The other reality, sadly, is that most teams are being asked to do all of this, and it's a growing list, not a shrinking list. They're being asked to do all of this with the same budget or less, the same team or fewer, and the expectation is everything's just going to perform efficiently and reliably all the time. If there's a new technology rollout, an upgrade, an update, that's all got to happen on time or ahead of time. And if there is a problem, heaven forbid, a degradation in a key service, it's got to get fixed immediately. So crazy high expectations, almost absurd list of challenges. What this is causing a lot of companies to do is kind of take a back to basics approach, which are, what are the tools that we have that are kind of the go-to tools? What are the data sources that we already have in place that we can leverage right now? And where that leads a surprising number of companies is back to our old friends, packets. Now, if any of you have been doing this for a while, like I have, packets have been a go-to source of information for literally decades. They are the ultimate source of truth. They are court-admissible evidence. Whether you're dealing with a complex problem with a multi-tier, perhaps multi-vendor application or service, if you're trying to understand what's going on with some suspicious traffic, if you're trying to do forensic analysis after a breach has occurred, if you're trying to hold a vendor accountable for an integration problem or an interoperability problem, packets are the indisputable source of truth. So we like packets, at least I do. But if you look at this screen, which may cause some of you to smile and may cause others of you to kind of shrink back in terror, is this how you want to manage end user experience across your service delivery infrastructure? Is this how you want to answer the question, how are our digital banking services performing in the Northeast region? Probably not. I don't want to be at the packet level to answer questions about how service delivery is working. I want to be at this level when I'm in troubleshooting mode and I've got a small manageable amount of data that I'm analyzing, not trying to analyze my entire universe. So the approach that some people have taken, in addition to having packet analysis available to them, is to really rely heavily on key performance indicators, or KPIs. And KPIs are certainly valuable. I don't want to in any way imply that they're not, especially if you're trying to monitor, manage, or report on a service level agreement. Having KPIs is important. There are certain key indicators that you're always going to want to follow up on. If you see latency across a link is skyrocketing, or retransmissions or drop packets are going up, you're going to want to go solve that problem right away. So KPIs definitely have value. But here's the problem. When you're trying to understand the end user experience for a service that may involve multiple hops, it may go through the data center, it may go out to the cloud and back again, it may start with a user on a mobile device. How is any one KPI along that path going to be an accurate representation of the end user experience? It isn't. So what you wind up trying to do is figure out how to correlate multiple KPIs, which can get confusing, and sometimes those KPIs can be a little bit of a red herring. You're chasing something that you think is root cause, and it turns out that it's really not the source of your problem. So KPI is good, but we don't want to rely on them when it comes to trying to really understand the depth and breadth of a problem from the user perspective and prioritize the resolution of an issue A next to issue B or C. So what we're suggesting is take a different approach, at least when it comes to a high-level understanding of how services are performing. This is an example of a dashboard that we've built that highlights how services are performing in a financial services environment. And it's pretty easy to look at this simple data representation and figure out where I have the most significant degradation in the category of card processing. So now I know I've got an issue here. I've confirmed it. It's more severe than any of the other issues. The idea is quickly validate that an issue exists, understand scope, severity, duration, and now what? So I validated it, but where do I go from here? What we've provided is a patented end user experience scorecard that's designed to take that assessment of the end user experience and combine it with automated domain isolation. So is this a network problem, a client server, or application problem? In this case, there's some evidence of degradation attributable to the network, but the majority of this issue is all about servers or a server that are unresponsive during connection setup. So validate the issue and be able to show me what the domain is I should be focused on. I'm not going to go bug the network team about this one. I'm going to go do some further investigation to see why my servers are performing this way. Now, it's helpful in a situation like this to understand the issue in context. And so what we provide is an on-demand application dependency map so that you can see, okay, show me what this service architecture looks like. The advantage of this is we start to understand the association between the different components of this service. And also we can really get to root cause more efficiently. And you might look at a diagram like this and say, well, all the red lines are over there on the left where the users are connecting to the web service, so that must be where the problem is. Maybe. That's certainly not unheard of. But in a situation like this, where it's a multi-tier application and there are delays happening on the back end, in most cases, you're going to want to clean that up before you start worrying too much about that first tier between the end users and the web server. Because if you've got database slowdowns, if you've got slow communication or inefficient communication between your app servers and your database servers, that problem is only going to get exacerbated as it moves out towards the front end. So in this case, I would probably start my troubleshooting efforts with figuring out why I've got degraded performance when it comes to my Oracle server and database. What we can further do as we begin the process of drilling down and analyzing this is actually get you down to the individual transactions between a single user and a single server, if we need to go that far, to understand why is there delay and exactly what is delayed. In this case, looking at the back and forth conversation between a single client and a single server, I see there's a particular Oracle TNS request that's taking nearly 2 minutes to get a response back. Okay, now I know what I'm dealing with. I can take that to the person that owns this application or this database and say, what is it about this query that's causing so much heartburn? Ultimately, it was packets that gave me this data, but we didn't ask the user to go take a PCAP and start poking around in Wireshark to figure this out. We simply gave them the top-down view that said there's a service degradation. We gave them a view of what the architecture and dependencies looked like, and we got them down to an individual conversation or transaction in this case. So in no way am I suggesting that we get rid of our old friend, the packets. They're probably going to be around longer than I am, but use them for what they're designed for, right? Use them when you need detailed forensic evidence of a breach. Use them when you need to prove to a vendor that the slowdown is their fault and not your fault. Use them for those complex troubleshooting challenges, but don't use them to understand service performance across your business or end user experience. So to summarize it, use the data sources for their intended purposes and what they're good at, if you will. Packets are great. KPIs are great, but use them again wisely, and don't be overly dependent on just discrete metrics that lack context or packets that lack context as well. Look for the right combination and leverage intelligent analysis versus manual analysis whenever you can to help get to that root cause more efficiently and effectively. You can see our URL there along with my email address. Thank you folks for your time. Happy to answer any questions if there are any and if we have time.